Hello, my name is Maria Bezubova and you're at my channel Fertilizers Jazz. Here we talk about events, trends, technologies in the world of fertilizers and agriculture. Please subscribe to the channel, put like to this video, and let's jazz! Year-end approaches very quickly, and it is already a good tradition to summarize what happened during the year and have a look at the crystal ball in order to see a bit of the future. In order to do this, I am happy to host again a super cool guest, Ilya Motorygin, partner at GG Trading. I am happy to welcome you, Ilya, and thank you so much for joining me again today.
Maria, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you are. Everyone, happy to see you once again. And yes, it's amazing. That's been already a year past since we discussed the results of 2024. Now it's about the time to speak about the results of 2025. So time flies, doesn't it?
Yes, it is so quickly, and I must say when the year is eventful, it flies even quicker. And this one was a really eventful year. I propose to start from the topic that actually came as a big news for everyone in fertilizer industry. It was just yesterday. At least myself, it caught by surprise. It is India, of course. When the whole market lost any hope that the Indian government will support the demand, which is waning actually, with a fresh tender before the end of the year, here is boom. They announced a tender for another 1.5 million tons to be shipped before mid-February. So let's recall maybe, Ilya, what was the general shift in Indian urea purchasing that happened this year? How do you feel it? Did it change much versus what we discussed a year ago?
Well, first of all, definitely, I think, it's not only you, it's not only me, but quite a lot of market participants. I'm sorry, I'm just about to sneeze. Wow, that's, we have like a typical saying, thank you.
That is true, what you're saying,
someone is sneezing, it's for the truth, right? So just, exactly. So when the first I was approached by some publications 2 days ago telling that some people started talking about a possible new Indian tender, I didn't get it seriously, right? Because what is the reason to have another tender right after you purchased quite a significant quantity and then just to do it, so swiftly? But it definitely happened, and I think Maria, we can say absolutely surely that this year we've seen quite a change in the country's purchase policy. Also, don't forget that 2025 is supposed to be the first self-sufficient year for urea in India. So, ironically, we saw a completely opposite move when the country imported one of the record quantities in the recent years. Just actually keep on tendering during the year. I haven't checked on the statistics, but I believe every second month it was a tender. So
Exactly.
Do you remember how many tenders did they hold during the year?
Yes, they did 6 tenders. This one, the fresh one, is the 7th, but we don't count it into 2025, obviously, because the shipment will be here. And exactly, you are right. They have imported together with this tender, which is finalizing the shipment now, 9.5 million tons, which is very close to their 10 million, but it was a long time ago already. So
yeah, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago, and it was actually before they have ramped up their own production. So
yes.
Now we're talking about that's ramping production, increasing production, and they're still just actually breaking up the records. Quite a move. And I believe, just if we recall our conversation a year ago, we didn't expect it.
I agree. And what do you think is the effect of this new, let's say, tendering strategy of Indian government? What is the effect at the global market this year and obviously next year? Because the forecasts from the analysts that I saw, they expect another, let's say, record year in terms of imports for India.
Well, the first of all, just obviously we have some kind of the growing of the GDP of the country, GDP of the country, so by itself. So it's logical that we need to consume more fertilizers. But also don't forget that they were finishing 2024 with a quite low stocks. That was, I mean, several reasons behind this, and we had discussed it in the past. So the old government and probably too many hopes of the self-sufficiency of the country. So I don't know, maybe they had predicted that they would be self-sufficient in 2025 at the plant, which didn't happen. But when the new year started in March, I mean, the new fiscal year for the country, right? Well, remember that the total quantity of the warehouses on the stocks, it was less than 2 million ton, which is a really critical number for a big country like India. So they definitely need to have a larger stocks. So the only solution they had is to start bombing this market with the tenders, which was so like now you say 9.5 million ton, and the same is predicted for the next year. Well, obviously we shall see the reality. But yeah, I mean, India is back as one of the major, if not the biggest player in this urea market.
Indeed. And how do you think this fresh tender will influence the global supply-demand balance, specifically in January, when the whole market was very dull about the perspectives because of the CBAM and everything happening, and the
Yeah,
price
yeah.
was decreasing everywhere? So, do you think it will support the price trend?
Well, that's as I published today on my LinkedIn page. I do consider this as a like early, well, maybe not early, but as a Christmas present from the DOF to urea producers worldwide, because exactly the moment when everything started looking a little bit gloomy, okay, stopped literally well, it didn't stop, but it slowed down quite a lot. And the imports into the EU related to CBAM, the one topic which we are going to discuss today, definitely. When Brazilians got a lot of offers from Iran on the water coming, arriving, and we see CFR prices at par, if not lower than FOB prices at from the several origins, right? So this particular moment, you have Indians coming up with a 1.5 million ton, which would be just a very good bridge to help to bridge between now and the first quarter of 2026. I would even probably say the second quarter of 2026, when we'll definitely have some demand from Europe. Whatever CBAM is, the Europeans will need to buy. You will have Mexico coming back to the market. You will have United States coming back from the winter season, and that's with the opening of the river. Well, typically that's this slow period over time should be supported by the Indians. Also, don't forget that if we talk about the countries in the northern hemisphere, so I don't exclude that Iran will decrease production. I mean, like we saw it for the last 2 years when they used a lot of gas for the heating of the houses, and they were just the producers had to shut down some of the production because of the gas, of the lack of the gas. Same will be happening in Russia for sure. So the domestic market will ramp up. Well, that's these combinations. I mean, I'm just be a little bit more optimistic rather than I was even 2 days ago, when I was just actually considering this market as a relatively bearish. Now I would just probably say it's going to be maybe balanced or supported. Not yet. I'm talking about any significant bullishness until we probably see something changes in 2 days when Brussels tells the final CBAM announcement and the benchmarks. If something happens, we all know that quite a lot of the representatives of the different productions, not only fertilizers but also the metal and the gas and the energy, are going to gather in Brussels tomorrow.
Right, right. Coming back to India, they were the newsmakers not only in the nitrogen segment, but also in the phosphates, obviously. And this
Mhm.
year, generally, phosphate market was suffering a lot. And one of the most important factors was exactly Indian purchasing policy. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because Indian government has not reviewed its subsidy system at the beginning of the fiscal year, and as the result, importers were constantly losing money. And because of that, clearly the deficit occurred right in the middle of the
Absolutely.
top season. After that, of course, they had to purchase a lot. They had to come into the market and to purchase so that not to spur the problems with their farmers in the market. And
Mm-hmm.
I see that perhaps they have drawn some conclusions out of this situation because closer to the year end, Indian import policy has changed. They decided to shift from the spot purchases to more contractual long-term purchases. They set a couple of contracts with OCP, for example, with Madan
Mm-hmm.
also.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think will be the effect regarding this shift from spot to more contractual in 2026? Is it going to ease the, let's say, tough situation with high prices in the phosphates market?
A very good question. The first of all, just actually, well, I have to give a massive shout out to the Indian government because, in my humble opinion, it was like the only possible solution. And we had discussed it in the past with you in one of your podcasts that the Indian government should consider something buying on the length, say, like long run rather than buying on the spot. So that what happened, and definitely with the increasing production both in Morocco and Saudi Arabia, these offtake agreements, this is a kind of a secure policy, not only for the Indians but also for the producers, right? So just like you and me, we used to work for a big holding. We know how it works, right? So just you should have at least 30% of your production allocated to offtake agreements because this is something which gives you an offtake regardless if market is good or bad. So you keep on shipping, you keep on shipping, you keep on shipping. So and on top of that, so it was like a beautiful combination of rather healthy prices and the quantities. So I think this strategy will a kind of a win-win. I don't like this word, but it's a kind of a win-win and it will continue. So the rest will definitely depend quite a lot of the demand around the global demand, and also how the main producers like OCP are going to play different countries, different cuts. So we know that in OCP we've recently seen some changes when they said like, okay, we are going just to make, let's say, rather open all the markets. I've not seen that in years, right? But now they say like, okay, you come, you pay the price, that's it. We're happy with that one. Also, don't forget that the European market will be still under some question. Okay, so you don't have a lot of nitrogen units in DAP and MAP, but still it's going to be kind of a loss uh, for the producers. This market will be lost. Right. So back to this one, I think again, well, and the price is corrected quite a lot. So, okay, so just actually, if we see from the top levels, which we saw back in August. So since that, the price has drifted down from 850 and $900 CFR Brazil. Oh, sorry, CFR India to 650, 670. So it's a good 25% loss of the value. But again, we will talk about one of the raw materials, which is sulfur, right? So just actually, it's quite significant, right? Because now, if you take in consideration the high price of sulfur, also rather high price of ammonia. Look, you can't have cheap material anymore. So the phosphates are not cheap in general. So what do you think about it? So the inputs are expensive by themselves.
Yes, I agree. And there is also another, of course, very important part of this equation, which is China, like another large supplier, which either supports the market or exits the market, and the market is suffering and the price is skyrocketing. That's exactly what happened last year, and seems like with the news that we just heard also last week. Another big
No, until
news.
August, 9 months.
It might happen, not might, it will happen for sure in 2026. So I agree, phosphates are on quite high, let's say, level, and they will stay there, I believe. And I don't really think that China will be out for 9 months. Uh, Maybe, hopefully, I mean, it's a wishful thinking. I hope that they will come back to the market as they usually do and as they did this year, let's say May, June, after their domestic top season will be over. But in any case, it will support the price until then for sure.
Oh,
And
definitely.
sulfur, coming back to what you said about sulfur, yes, sulfur, of course, is a very, very crucial raw material for the phosphates. And this year, it was an unseen, it is actually, we're now at the unseen level of sulfur price. It hit more than 500 spot
Hmm.
price, $500. FOB. And yeah, there is no hope, as I see it, that it will go down anytime soon because the supply from Russia it was squeezed and it will be squeezed more with the attacks of Ukrainian army at the plants, oil producing plants. And at the same
Hmm.
time, non-fertilizer demand is also increasing for
Growing up.
sulfur.
Exactly.
So that
Exactly.
is, I believe, that will
By the
keep.
way, this is what we also have to think coming back to the phosphates, right? So just actually we
Yes,
have like a non-fertilized demand for the technical MAP and the technical DAP, which is used in the batteries. It keeps on growing, and it will be growing in the next 10 years for sure. So I think we briefly talked about it the last time when we actually even we even had some statistics from IFA saying
mhm,
how big is going to be consumption of non-fertilizer consumption, and we're talking that if now we talk if we now speak about 2-3% of the global consumption, it will be going up to 10-12% in the next 10 years, which is massive.
exactly. So
Mhm.
maybe
Same with sulfur.
500 as a spot price, it's too much, and it's not, of course, the forecast for 2026. But sulfur definitely will stay elevated, somewhere close to this level, perhaps, which, as a result, won't let the phosphates prices drift too low. Um, I would like to come back to China, which is an important player not only in phosphates but also in actually all other fertilizer segment as well. Um, let's start with urea because again here was a lot of news coming from China. In 2025, China came back to the international market after being out for a year or a bit more even.
More than a year.
And as a result, they are going to export, seems like about 5.5 million tons
Yeah.
by the end of the year. It is still open, and some quotas are not used, as far as I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's it.
And there were even rumors circulating that there might be even one more, fourth export quota open until the end of the year. It's not yet, and perhaps it will not, but still these rumors were circulating. What does that mean? I would say that it's another change which we see in terms of policy. So Chinese decided to change their approach to exports of urea. We see that capacities are increasing in China, and all these capacities most likely will be interested to go to the international market where the price is much higher versus their domestic price. So how do you think
Mhm.
Chinese product presence in the market will impact urea price and supply demand balance next year?
Good. Well, first of all, what I would like to add, so let's glance back. At the moment when when Chinese introduced the first allocation of their quotas, That was right before IFA. That was in May, end of April, in May 20 of this year, 2025. And I believe that was also kind of a result of a trading war between China and the US. So obviously, as soon as you have less of Chinese products going into the US and relatively less revenue for the country in the US dollars, they had to find some kind of other products which would be like quickly cashable. And fertilizers, and especially urea, as we understand, is always in demand. Also, don't forget that what followed it, it followed quite a good change into the country-to-country relations between China and India. If actually back in the days we know that it was a kind of a tension between those two countries, and even the first tenders, we saw a kind of a restrictions for the Chinese products to hit India. So then it's on the side that it changed after the top level meeting between the two countries, between the leaders of the countries, the prime minister and the leader of Communist Party. So yes, now we saw this kind of a shift also played quite a role in Chinese releasing the urea for export. So yes, okay, quite an increase, 5.5 to 6 million ton, comparing to less than a million ton a year before. It's 5 times bigger. And still not a limit for the country. We understand that the country can go up to 8 9 million on the year, right? Which would be just actually quite a collapse for the prices worldwide. But I think now the traders and the market participants will definitely keep this in mind while quoting prices or while just deciding on going in positions. So overall, I would probably say for us as for traders, it means that we always see now the cap of the market, right? So if beginning of the last year, 2025, and especially just even after the first bunch of quarters was announced, the market was still going up, right? So it still was, I mean, well supported, and it well supported with a lack of the supply and the more demand. Now it's technically changed, right? So now we see that technically we have more like a cap side rather than just and the bottom support. Well, that's what I say. I don't expect that Chinese will be exporting anything during Q1, mainly because of the domestic market, right? But also, I believe these kind of quotas now work as a kind of a bonus for those who have executed the domestic program, right? So just okay, you guys been good boys for the half a year. Now you can allocate and get some real good money. Yeah, because we understand that export prices are way higher than domestic markets. So this is like a kind of another, as I said, as not a punishment, but a kind of a bonus system for the local producers, which works. But yes, let's put it. Let's when we make this equation, let's add a good 5 6 million tons to the worldwide supply.
Sure. Yes, definitely
It's what
agree.
we have to keep in mind. Exactly. I mean, will we see the prices of the last year? Hopefully not. Why I say hopefully not? Because the first of all, the last year midsummer increase was caused by the war. And the last thing which I want to see in this war was that it's more worse, so that there should be stopped for sure. And that was where we know it was Israeli-Iranian conflict. And the second, so that's the word affordability, which we've been using the numerous times during our previous conversations. The affordability should be better because grain products and agri products, agri commodities products are not getting better at all. And even so, just with a recent stage of the peaceful talks between Russia. Let's put it this way, between Russia and US and Ukraine, because I mean these two countries, Russia and Ukraine, they don't speak directly, as we know, we don't communicate. So they give a hope that the more agri products will be exported, and we definitely saw it in the recent with the recent developments of the grain prices. So something should be adjusted.
Yes, yes, I agree. And the part of this affordability, let's say, equation, I think was tried to be solved by China with more ammonium sulfate exports to the international market.
Yep.
So China, it's not the strategy of only 2025. It is the strategy of past several years. But in 2025, it was another record that China set for exports. It will be during first 10 months, China exported already more than during the whole year of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have perhaps the figure of more than 18 million tons close to the year end,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe more. We will see what will be the results of November and December. And next year, of course, China will push more products to the international market. It's clear because the capacities of ammonium sulfate are huge.
Huge. Just huge.
And what I saw this year, and I think that this trend will go into the next year, that sulfate will be going to be a serious competitor for urea, especially at those low-cost markets, which are, we know, Brazil and Turkey, most vulnerable markets in terms of prices and in terms of high competition. So what do you think? How this massive sulfate supply might influence the affordability? Can it at all?
Well, good question. Just, to me, okay, let's quickly go to the nitrogen units, right? So you have 21% of nitrogen unit in ammonium sulfate, you have 46% in urea. Okay, we talk about different nitrogen. We'll also speak about some sulfur presence in ammonium sulfate. This is all about like a kind of a bonus. But if we just actually go 20 against 40, that means technically you need twice more ammonium sulfate to meet the same nitrogen content as of an urea, right? So
Right.
just okay. So we saw a lot of ammonium sulfate going to Brazil, but that was mainly because of the high prices of urea, right? So just whenever we saw the urea prices climbing up to what, $500
Yeah,
CFR
even more.
Brazil, ammonium sulfate kept on selling at 150, 160. Okay, so just 2.5 times cheaper than urea that it was. But what you're going to do now when you see Brazil under $400 CFR benchmark and you have ammonium sulfate close to $200. So that's when you have this parity of 1 to ratio, then you will start thinking, do I buy ammonium sulfate or I buy urea? Because don't forget, I need twice more trucks. I need twice bigger vessels, twice bigger size vessels. I
Provides
need
more
just actually to
operations.
handle. Exactly. That's more operations. That mean more costs, and that's we saw the lineup, which we saw in the main ports. And again, when you talk about China, right? So you can't you barely speak about the vessels on the handy size. You talk about huge Panamaxes. They're cost effective are huge. I mean, when I knew how much people pay for a Panamax cargo or like even close to the Cape side. Okay, not Cape, but Panamax cargo from China to the main port of Brazil. I didn't believe myself. Guess the number. How cheap is that?
Tell me how much?
$12? $12?
12? I wanted to say 15,
Well,
but I couldn't believe myself.
well, it is
Wow.
$12. $12. But you only have 3 ports in Brazil which can
Yeah.
handle Panamax vessels. You talk about Santos, Paranaguá, Itaqui. Done. So that means
Yeah.
you have to bring it. Otherwise, you go in the handy size, and the handy size is different math. Absolutely different math. So you have a lot of the restrictions. So in my humble opinion, as soon as we see the prices of urea comparable to prices of ammonium sulfate in 1 to ratio, we'll see people going back to urea. It's easy to do. It's closer. It's a lot of urea which is located like 2 weeks time selling or something is already on the water. It's I can't say it's more affordable, but it's easy to handle. And then also, I don't have statistics yet, but I believe more than 1 million ton, I think like well over more than 1 million ton, has been shipped into the EU in Europe, into the
That's
EU
true.
before CBAM. So I know it from the warehouses in Europe. It's quite full of ammonium sulfate. Let's wait because now we know ammonium sulfate is very much hit by expected CBAM,
Yeah.
at least according to the leaked data which we have, right? So, well, that's what I think that Europe will be, if not lost, but very much limited in consumption of ammonium sulfate from China. And Brazil depends on the prices. Let's say it. Wow, that's my view. It's a big thing. It's a definitely very big thing in China, especially when urea is over export. They all switch. Whoever can do, they switch. But I would just probably just be a little bit more cautious with ammonium sulfate. It's very 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 let's say it's a product which consumes a lot of your effort and skills, and but marginality is not even close to what you can do with urea and the swings.
Yes, yes. Let's see how it plays out, and I agree that Europe will be an important factor in all this
Oh, oh, oh.
story. The another newsmaker, India and China, let's say they're classical, usual
Big,
newsmakers
big,
in
yes.
our market. Yeah, but another elephant added this year, and of course it is the US. And the whole world cards were mixed by US, smashing the global trade, with these abrupt tariffs. In spring, then US caught everyone by surprise again, canceling those reciprocal
Yes.
tariffs at the beginning of December. And I think that the main word that can describe the whole situation there in 2025 is uncertainty. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think how this uncertainty and the effect, let's say, of this uncertainty will influence purchasing patterns? First of all, in the US itself,
Mm-hmm.
because US hasn't purchased actually the whole amount that they needed during this 2025
Because of the
because of
tariffs. Exactly.
these
Because
shifts,
of the
right?
tariffs.
And also, of course, how it will influence other markets, the whole globe, because trading flows have changed because of the
Mm-hmm.
6 or 7 months of tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
They might
Mm-hmm.
change again. Perhaps
Well,
it's not
definitely
the
can.
final version of the regulation, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, first of all, just let's add another cherry on the top of the pie. That's the BPC is not sanctioned in the US anymore. So the biggest Belarusian producer of potash is now welcome back to the United States. A very bad news for their neighbors in Canada, obviously. But yeah, well, I have a kind of an impression that Mr. Trump keeps on testing what happens in the country. So just by navigating, but not doing, but navigating. So it's like he's like I can't say he's like a kind of a kid with a playing and just trying to understand why playing, but that would happen indeed. So the country, especially what happened with the nitrogen, the country was completely undersupplied with all these tariffs because nobody wanted to import by knowing. And don't forget that back in the days, US was a quite well market for the offtake agreements and the frame contracts, right? So just everything what was shipped either from Nigeria or from AG, it was on the water. Very nice priced, coming, logistics, river barges. Yeah, we know how the US works, right? Now, just actually before the ice then on the Mississippi River, so the country we will repeat it once again was undersupplied. Now it will be very interesting to see what happens in April when it's back with a major importing season. That's what I say that the Indian tender is quite a good support for the market. Just actually to wait until this time when the cargoes will start arriving to the US to Norway. And yeah, okay, today it is what it's at par with the Brazil probably, right? So just it's bouncing back around $400 CFR. One day up, one day down. but we know that the main game starts in February, March. That's well, but it will be a good support for all the traditional suppliers of urea, right? So just and we speak uh, literally all the origins, including Russians. Well, that's the cancellation of the tariffs was a bad news for the Russians, the first leg, because they felt themselves very good in the US. Yeah, I'm happy to see that we're back to the normal path, if you ask me, right? So just you don't have to think, okay, if I ship into the US, who's paying 10% or who's paying 14%, or we split it, or how do I explain it to our suppliers? So yeah, it's good. The states is always good.
Let's hope that it is the final version of the regulation and there will be no more abrupt changes. Let's see.
One of the reasons you remember that Mr. Trump promised to spend some of the tariffs back to the farmers, but then he changed his mind. So I don't know, is it are these two facts somehow related to each other? I can't say it.
There was announcement that $12 billion will
Yeah.
go, are going actually to the farmers already now in
Is
parts
it
during
confirmed now?
2026. I'm not sure if
Is
it's
The
from
last one
there.
I heard that there was like some kind of a question marks. How would it be distributed if at all?
Exactly, exactly. Let's see how it will come to the end user of the money who will be
Exactly.
purchasing fertilizers. Yes, let's see, let's see. And of course, we already touched on that. The main, perhaps global institutional change, apart from the US tariffs, is of course CBAM, major, major thing, which will come in full force in a week from now, something like that. Yeah. But and the second half of 2025, actually, the main word in the fertilizers market, in every conference, in every call that I had almost, it was CBAM. Everyone was expecting when the regulation will be finally out, but we are now at the end of December, close to Christmas time, and there is no clear regulation, no calculation methodology, no emissions verification procedure in place, only leakages of small portions of information that you already mentioned. Of course, it is a mess. So it's already
It is a
clear.
mess.
Yes,
That's the
that.
right word. It is the right word, and it's probably the most polite word which you can apply to this new regulation. And
Yes,
it's not only me. I would probably say it's actually I don't think if you find any participant, including Chiara, including other European producers, who would be just absolutely happy or just fairly happy with what's happening. So
right.
it's a mess, unfortunately.
But unfortunately, it is a reality, yeah, and seems like Q1 will be very, very low in terms of imports to Europe because everyone who had the
Yeah.
financial ability and the physical, let's say, possibility in terms of warehousing and everything purchased already. And everyone will be just sitting on the fence and looking at the situation from there.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
how much, what is your feeling? How much of the consumption will be lost because of that? Because definitely some of that will be lost. And how, of course, the main question, how this will influence affordability for the European farmers in 2026. Let's stick to this because we don't know
Yeah.
how it will change
Yes. We talk
after.
about 2026. Exactly. We talk about 2026, which will be the first year to report, and then to pay in 2027. So
Yeah.
again, this is something which does question everyone who participates in the European market. Well, I don't have numbers yet, but my estimate we can talk about up to 20-25%, which will be lost. And it's really, really pity because, in my humble opinion, again, this is my opinion, my personal opinion, but I can't find any other words that it's like a kind of it's a bomb under the European Union by itself. Because, well, you and me, were now covering fertilizers, but don't forget that it's related not only to fertilizers, it's related actually to all other industries. Yes, fertilizers and agriculture industry is huge. But what's about the, I don't know, car producing? What's about the electronics and everything? I mean, Europe cannot live without imported raw materials or just, let's say, the semi-finished products. And it's now all the CBAM tariffs, CBAM tax. And if Europe wants to go to, let's say, some kind of the green economy, then it will be living in the woods. But it's a big question, will it be like one union? Because I think that if it goes like this, in a couple of years, we will see countries start leaving the EU just because they will not afford, they will not be able to afford themselves to produce, to live, and to just actually to keep people in the countries. Back to your question, to fertilizers. 25%? Maybe yes, maybe no. Consumption, as you right said, so we completely, let's say, skipped the half of a year, mid-year stock refill because of the prices. We had a war. Fertilizers, nitrogen were high, phosphates were high, potash was banned. Then mid of the year, you had Russians cut off with the tariffs. Okay, so nothing happened. Now, towards the end of the year, you had traders, and I don't punish anyone. I'm just actually talking about the facts. The traders who started bringing the cargoes into the warehouses, custom cleared before the end of the year. Well, just hoping to get more money when the application comes. This is their right. This is their risk. This is their money they invest in this enterprise. But what's about the final users? Okay, they want to buy, but now if they come and say, okay, I want to buy now at today's prices, but you deliver me after the new year, what kind of reply do they expect? Definitely not. They say either you buy me now, you pay me now, and I sell you and I empty my warehouse and I will probably bring something else before the year ends, or just let's wait until the CBAM and I don't know, maybe we split 40 euros, which is now a kind of expectations on Egyptian urea, or you will have to pay it yourself. But me as a trader, I'm not paying it. Why do I have to do it when me, myself, personally, I'm not producing any CO2 emission?
That's right.
No, it's either you guys or that guys. Just sorry,
Yes,
but it's a
it
mess.
is a
It is
mess,
a
and it
mess.
will be a tough call for the whole
Exactly.
industry, I believe, especially in 2026, because it is the first
All
time
right.
nobody is prepared and nobody understands how it
And
should
then in
be
2027, you
run.
will have to pay it retrospectively. So
Yeah.
you have to reserve some money for this one. And it's like this is a kind of a money you take from your cash flow. You have to keep it, right? You have to anticipate. And what happens if you miscalculate it?
Mhm.
And then in 2027, you have to pay more. Guys, it's a mess.
It's a
I'm
mess.
using this word again and again. It is a mess.
But at the same time, maybe luckily at the same time, low gas price helps domestic European producers. Because if we look at the current price and at the trend of TTF, which is at the moment at 27 euros per megawatt hour, which is about 11 something, $11
Mhm.
per MMBTU, and it is about 25 to 30% lower versus a year ago.
Yeah, but you
Um,
just you just you just said an absolutely right word. It will help producers, local producers. I am ready to bet you now here that it will not help consumers. Producers yet, but not consumers.
yes, because they
Producers will
will have a
enjoy,
high
of course,
price.
they will
Yeah.
enjoy less competition. They will enjoy less competition or limited competition with imported product just to push their prices up. I'm just actually waiting for the next release of the first release of 2026 prices from the local European producers without giving any names, right? I will be happy to see how much will they charge, especially for ammonium nitrate and calcium ammonium nitrate, which are like a top tariff
Of
with a
course.
recent CBAM, which is like a hundred and 114 euros
Hmm.
for calcium ammonium nitrate produced in Egypt.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, but do you think that this situation with gas might push some suppliers which were either closing, let's say, suspending their production for some time because of the high gas price? Do you think some of them might come back on stream and we might see, I wouldn't say full coverage, of course, of European needs by domestic production, but at least coming back on stream someone who was not producing for some time?
Well, there is always a chance, right? So we know it. But again, coming back, you and me, we worked for the big production holding, right? So you remember that any decisions on them going down or restart, you should have either you should have like a wall in front of you and you understand there is no more cheap gas for the next 6 months, and whatever, if I stop now, I lay out people, I have to pay expenses, etc., etc., etc. The same applies to a restart of the factory. If you restart of the factory, you need to have some kind of at least 6 month guarantee that you will have the same gas prices for the next 6 months. Hopefully, again, with the peaceful talks in the East Europe between Russia, US, and Ukraine, will bring a kind of a relief to the gas prices. But again, don't forget, the Russian gas is not allowed. And will Europeans be back allowing Russian gas? Definitely not. Because now here the Europe stands by Ukraine, and it's understandable, even if the countries are forced for the ceasefire, right? So that not necessarily means that the Russia will be allowed in the EU. I mean, I don't think so.
I
Well,
agree, and especially because the place of Russian gas is already being taken by US
exactly.
LNG exports. However, of course, LNG in
It's not
general,
cheap.
LNG comes with a higher price.
It goes with a high
That is clear.
price. It goes with the more expenses, with the more costs. And yeah, so we're talking about the cheaper but not cheap gas. We're still talking about two digits numbers, which you have to pay for MMBTU, right? So back in the days, we always were talking like, I mean, one digit number. So not anymore.
Yes,
So it's very questionable, very questionable.
that is right.
Again, don't forget that actually you still have to calculate the CBAM even for the local production from the imported LNG.
Yes, that's right. And in the light of this discussion of gas, I would like to mention two other markets, big producing actually markets, producing countries, which had certain problems with gas supply previously in previous years. But in 2025, they have either solved this problem or still the problem didn't show up. So the first one is Egypt, the
And let's
major
say it in
producer.
2026. They still had problems in 2025. I think 2026 will be the first year when we see if they have solved it or they just actually it was like a temporary solution.
Yes, I agree. They did a major step forward in terms of putting several more regasification units
Hmm.
in order to receive LNG and to make this scarcity during summertime at least lower. And
Yeah.
indeed, we saw that this year Egypt hasn't stopped for, let's say, long periods of time as it was in previous years. But at the same time, as we just discussed, LNG is a costly solution. So this
Hmm.
shift most likely will increase the cost of production and limit competitiveness of Egyptian products. So what do you think? How significantly this might influence the cost of Egyptian urea and putting on top of that CBAM extra charges that they will need as everyone else to pay to Europe to their usual market. So how do you
They
see it?
need to pay to Europe. Of course, they will have to pay. And well, let's put it this way, right? So just actually with urea, I haven't made my calculations for a while, but I believe that even with the imported gas, so the cost production is between 200 to 150, right? So just actually, if you have urea today 400, 440, 450, is it a good number? I think it's a good number for them, right? So just actually, you still can afford it. But no matter that the Egyptian urea is not one of the cheapest worldwide as it used to be. Not anymore. They have like a lot of cost. Well, will it somehow limit their possible projects on increase their capacity? It will definitely, because now when you just actually work any new production plant, or let's say expansion of existing productions, that you have different cash flow, you have different return on the investment ratio, right? So just that means you will definitely have it will be harder to allocate any new funds to produce in Egypt. So that's why I probably say that with the situation of today, we don't have to explain to any new production going out of Egypt, right? Also, we've already seen quite a lot of allocations of the new projects in around Africa, more like South and Central. We talk about Nigeria and Ethiopia, which will be just actually, by the way, quite an interesting to talk briefly. So how do you think it? I mean, well, you've been in on the production side for many years. Well, how do you think it will influence the market in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years?
I think the effect at the let's say Western Hemisphere at Brazilian market and will be huge, of course. But the
Yeah.
target of those productions also is to increase presence in the African market itself,
Yeah.
which
Hmm.
is related not only to the problem of scarcity of the product, but more of the infrastructure of how to bring this product into the inland countries, landlocked countries. So
Hmm.
in parallel, as far as I see it, these two processes are developing. So the production facilities are being built, but also the whole infrastructure is being developed. And
Yeah.
a lot of companies and countries themselves are investing into this. So if these two processes are really come in the same time altogether, I think it is a very good move from the producers, from the African producers, because they will be able to place quite a significant volume there in Africa itself and make a very
Hmm.
good step for the whole humanity, let's say, to develop the agriculture in Africa.
That's
But
correct.
it's a big but, let's say, because if it doesn't happen, then their cost of production is low. So there will be a lot of pressure at the global supply with
Hmm.
a product which is low priced. And at the same time, you have all these producers like Egypt who will increase their cost of production.
That's
So
why we say
we
answering your question. Yeah,
so we
answering
might
your
see the
question.
change of the trade flows and traditional, for example, Egyptian producers might lose their traditional markets because of
Absolutely.
that. That's we
Absolutely.
might see. But for me, it's a big but this related to the infrastructure development in Africa. Hopefully,
Yeah.
it will happen and will be absorbing some significant amounts of product.
Absolutely right. But also just actually, you see, we have like quite an ambitious gentleman behind the project, don't we? So
Yes,
I think that he is a kind of a personalities who likes to make the things done and
I agree.
being real. We'll see. It will be interesting. It will be interesting to observe indeed.
I agree. Also, Iran, we have already touched a bit on that. Till now, we don't see any gas curtailments because of the mild weather, I believe, mostly till the end of the year.
Hmm.
Most likely, it will still emerge sometime in
I think
January.
yes. I think yes.
Yes,
I think it will.
but in any case, how do you see Iran building new capacities? We know that there will be some capacities coming on stream also.
Hmm.
How do you think it will influence global supply demand, and especially for the markets which welcome Iranian product like Brazil and Turkey?
Well, this is just actually probably the right question to start from or to start with. What countries in this world left who are welcoming or who can afford buying and paying for the Iranian urea? And you have a few of them left. That's definitely Brazil, um, Turkey, maybe some countries in Africa. What else? Not India anymore. So just back in the days, it was a kind of a switch documents, but it doesn't work anymore. And this is how it goes. It's just I mean I'm quite puzzled. Um, you actually have to be very competitive in terms of pricing. And well, we also know how the way the Iranians are trading these days. That's in kind of a tender, government tenders, which is or announced price. So then you can negotiate the price plus minus, but it actually has to be close to the benchmark, which is set by the country itself. Uh, Again, so I think it will keep influencing Brazil. Well, Brazil becomes like an absolutely in the middle of all the routes. So you have Nigeria, you have Russia, you have AG cargos when they need to go there. You have Iranian cargos. Well, recently I've heard that Iranians even applied some customers in Brazil, offering them formula deals. So you just actually based on some kind of a formula, which comes to me a kind of, if not government to government, but a kind of like offtake agreements. This is what we start our conversation with, talking about India buying from the big producers on the formula. Um, why not? Yes, and then Turkey. But also don't forget that the Turkey will become quite an interesting market now for Egyptians, right? Because they still have a duty advantage of 6.5%, which is not payable, but at the same time there is no CBAM. Well, this is a kind of the battlefield between the North Africa and Persian Gulf. Doc, I do predict it's going to be a rather tough year for the Iranian producers once again, right? Also, don't forget that after bombing in July, some port infrastructure remains damaged. So, from what I follow, they have like quite a significant lineups at the main loading ports.
Yes, that's for sure. And in general, if we take a more helicopter view, let's say, at what happened in 2025, it was a year for tectonic changes in geopolitics in general, because
Absolutely, absolutely.
as you mentioned, we lived through this 12 days war between Israel and Iran. Russia-Ukraine war is still ongoing, hopefully finalized soon, but we talk about this not for the first year, unfortunately. And in general, global volatility level
Oh, yeah.
is at historical highs. Many prominent people from the globe are talking about this. The famous Nassim Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, the CEO of BlackRock. I was reading about that as well. CEO of JP Morgan, all these guys, they alert the globe that the recent increase in volatility will significantly influence market activity, investment, everything next year. Also, some say that there will be the next major economic crisis coming from US again. So it's only the question of when, beginning of the year, middle of the year, but it will come, they say. So how do you think all this will influence us? Agriculture, fertilizers, if it really happens, of course.
Okay, the good thing, they cannot stop agriculture. They cannot
Yes.
stop people from growing what we're eating, right? Well, look, so we've seen several major crises in the last 20 years, right? So will it be some kind of relief? Well, definitely, right? So just does war need it? Not necessarily. But if it happens, then somebody needs it, right? So it's hard to say. But again, just I keep on talking about affordability. I keep on talking on the price of agris against the price of the inputs. It's we can't neglect the fact this is one of the lowest historical low, but we've been living with that for almost 4 years now, right? So just since beginning of Russian-Ukrainian war, when affordability was like historically less affordable, it happens. Hard to say. I mean, just we decided that we in the company we definitely made the predictions for the year, but we just decided that we break it in the smaller periods, not even the 3 months, but in the 2 months. So we have like now six predictional periods, And we just actually built our activity for the next 3 months just to understand where are we investing our efforts, time, and money. And then we just decide that we better reconsider it every second month. It's easier because sometimes the thing changed in the blink of an eye. So, and you have to react quickly, right? So if you don't foresee this, then you have to be very quick in reaction, and then you have to adjust your plans more often. I think that the most of the companies will do the same, will have the same approach. I know that some of the companies, they have the same approach, just actually, how it's better to say, it's when you stop allowing an autopilot to drive you and you take your steering wheel back in the hands, this is what we're going to do.
Yes, yes, exactly. Very, very good point. Thank you so much. And I would like to finish this amazing interview with a couple of,
Yeah, great.
small blitz questions to you, more personal
Definitely
ones,
go for
because
it.
it's always interesting to know person behind the trader, let's say. So my first small question will be this. After so many years that you spent in the fertilizers industry, what is that still inspires and surprises you?
It surprises me. I've never expected that we've been seeing so many moves, let's say, not related to supply and demand, right? So everything which is related to tariffs, CBAM or whatever, but it does surprise me a lot because like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were thinking that we are on the way of some company open borders and then free competition and the countries telling each other. Now we just actually a very closed community, right? So the countries put some additional borders, and I can't say when we saw it last time. Maybe when we had a kind of a protectionism back in middle of the last century during the war. That surprised me a lot.
Thank you. Second question. If you can bust just one myth about fertilizers or fertilizers industry, what would that be?
We have so many myths around the fertilizer industry. Um, what would I say? So that's um, it's a very good question. I don't know. Okay, let's put it this way. Let's put it that we are not bringing any value in the chain. So yeah, we bring a lot of value in the chain. So I would say a lot of
Yes,
value.
it's a famous
So
myth.
yeah, exactly. So the fertilizer traders, we do bring value in the chain. And
Yeah.
yes, and we're not drinking until 3 in the morning. So it's a
And it logically brings us to the third question. How
yeah.
would you
No.
how would you explain in simple words, for example, to your grandma, what is your job as a fertilizers trader?
Oh, well, this one is easy. I have to drink until 3 in the morning to feed the world. I mean, that's what I do.
Thank you
No,
very much.
seriously, if I have explained to my grandma, so just, yeah, we are the part of the world chain, and I'm very proud of it. Really, I'm very proud of it to be the part of the world chain of the food chain and securing enough of fertilizer for this world. So this is where we are.
Exactly. Thank you so much. It was
It's a
so
pleasure.
great talking to you, and let's see how our forecasts and expectations realize next year. And I wish
Good.
you
Yeah.
and GG Trading a lot of luck, a lot of good
Thank
projects,
you.
and
We're
happiness,
officially
of
two
course.
years today. We're officially 2 years today, by the way,
Yeah,
guys. It's
congratulations.
17th
Congratulations.
of December, 2 years ago, we formed it. Yeah, thank you very much. You enjoy the festive holidays, and I congratulate you with another successful year of a fertilizer jars. A
Thank
great
you.
project. Keep on going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for watching. As usually, I will leave all credentials of Ilya and GG Trading in the comments. Please let me know in the comments if you agree with the summary that we did with Ilya. If we have forgotten anything, please kindly write it in the comments. Also, I'm very interested to learn about your expectations from the 2026. So also please share, don't be shy. Please subscribe to the channel, put like to this video, and see you soon.